Hi, I'm Eric Kuzel, and I'm going to take you through my business focus challenge. Now, I deliberately call it a focus challenge rather than just a business planning or a goal setting challenge. Yes, that goes into it because it's about focusing on what really matters. Before we go on, you can always hop over to my website and send a request for my workshop where I will do this type of thing, but you will have that personal interaction. So, at any time, you're welcome to do that. Now, you should have this in front of you, the Business Focus Challenge. That's the front page of my report. And what it said there in the middle is really important. Focus on what matters. Challenge your thinking and amplify your strengths. Break through obstacles and unleash your full potential. And influence everyone in your business to achieve more, starting with yourself. And this is where this starts. Yourself, your goals, what you want to do. The second part is all about the planning and management and the leadership around that. With that said, I'm doing this in two parts. The first part is going to be about your vision, your goals, and your strategy. And the second part about your planning, your management, and a reflective overview on where we are and what you've planned. Now, you should have that document in front of you, which I just mentioned. If you don't, take a break now and come back. Get the document, because what I will do is I will go through that document bit by bit, and you can probably physically do some of the things and pause as we go. Alternatively, you could listen to everything at once and then go back on your own and go through it and do it at your leisure. It's up to you because we all do things differently, and I'm not going to tell you to do it the way I do it. All I'm going to give you is the opportunity to do it as I go through it, or listen to everything and then do it as it suits you. Now, I'm going to go straight on to the next part, but you could pause it at this point and take a bit of a breather. So here we are in part one, vision, goals, and strategy. Now, step one is what do I want, and step two is how will I get it. Very complicated. But seriously, let's look at step one, which is about your vision. It's about where do you want to be 1, 5, or 10 years from now. This should convey a very simple message about what the business intends doing and where it intends going and where you want to be in the near and distant future. What would you like to achieve? What do you have in mind for your business, and what is your primary aim? So in a way, this is not a vision and mission setting for a business or a corporate as such. It's more about your personal effectiveness within your business and how you transmit your vision into that. Now, when you have team meetings in a business, this may change. That is not what this is about. Put your dreams down, put your vision down, put your plans down. Now, then you'll see in the workbook, that's the type of document. Now, I will just have a look at mine and tell you how I would complete it. I would literally use those small bits of writing space and write down my vision right there. Hi, I don't know about you, but I took a very short break to have a look at my document and then discuss with you your vision, goals, and strategy. Now, first of all, we're going to do this first part in two steps. The first part is what do I want? And a lot of that has got to do with dollars and values and profit. And the second part is how will I get it? And that's got a lot to do with the customers you're selling to and the products you're going to, and services you're going to sell to them. So, but first of all, let's look at your vision. This is the first thing on what do I want. So where do you want to be 1, 5, or 10 years from now? It should be a simple message about where you intend going and where the business is going to go in the near and distant future. What would you like to achieve? What do you have in mind for your business? What's your primary aim? Now, you can add anything else to that, but you will see in my document I've given that much space for you to write it down. So at this point, we are not talking about this corporate vision and mission statements that you have a whole committee thinking through and it takes weeks. I'm talking about take 5 minutes and write it down, because I want you to do the whole plan in one sitting if you could. And once you've done that, come back and reflect, because business is not about little bits and pieces. It's about achieving the big goals and getting the big picture and then drilling down into the details. Otherwise, we get stuck into a detail that in the bigger scheme of things may not be that important. So let's move on. You'll see in the next part is going to be all about objectives. So for now, go and do that now. Go and write your vision. Sit back and just write it down and take a few minutes to do that and come back to this. Or as I said, you may want to read the whole thing. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to go and do things as we go through. You don't have to. It depends on your style and what suits you best. Now, step 2, or step 1, but the second part of step 1 is objectives. Now, objectives is all about profit and sales, really. So the things you should specify is your profitability targets and the most important financial results. And you're going to get a spreadsheet to use that and to do that with. The market position and competitive standing your business aims to achieve. So what market share, how are you going to compete, how are you better than the others, and the most important customer and product and service results that you want to achieve, which again will be what customers or customer groups and what products. So the third part is setting your financial targets. Now, the first step there is to set your profit and sales targets. What profit do you want to make and what sales? And from that, you do the second step, which is which customers will you make that profit and sales from, and what products and services will you sell to them? A lot of that has to do with right now, but also a year from now. And you'll see how I do this when I do the spreadsheet interactive. So number 1 is profit and sales. And in the spreadsheet, you won't be able to see all of this. But I'm asking you to say, what is your sales? What's your gross profit, your net profit, your cash flow? Now, I'm not asking you to do an accounting exercise. Don't go and trawl through your accounting records. Ask yourself whether you know these figures at the tip of your fingers, the current ones. And then put down a year from now what you would like to achieve. I suggest, if you're not sure, start with net profit. What money do you want to drop out at the end of your business after paying everything, including yourself? And a year from now, and then 5 years from now. Once you've done that, you'll be on a good wicket to decide what's important and what isn't, and the implications of what you've written down. This should be targets, not let's see what I'm doing now and can I add 5%. This is what would I like to achieve a year and 5 years from now, because the next step is what will that take? That's really the question. So I'm going to go through the spreadsheet. You can take another break at this point, or you can go straight and just see what I do in the spreadsheet. Hi. So I'm going to take you through this simple spreadsheet about setting sales and profit targets. So you would be very familiar with this if you're in business. So it's quite simple. Let's assume you're on a $1 million a year sales. It doesn't matter what the figure are, if it's 100,000 or a million or 10 million. I've worked with all sizes, but the bottom line is look at the figure and where are you now? What is your gross profit? And let's assume 600,000. It could be anything depending on your business. And then expenses, and then a net profit of 250,000. Now, most of us would be quite happy with a net profit and that amount of cash in the bank. It could be all kinds of figures there. If the figure is, let's say, 500,000 or whatever your figure is, the key is your net profit negative? If it's in the red, if it's bleeding red ink, then your cash is going to be, well, we don't even want to talk about that. Then your future, where I've put a 1 there, think of the future. And that future could be 1 year from now or 5 years from now. But if it's red ink, we probably want to do month on month. And you want to have a target for 3 months, not for 1 year. So it all depends on your situation and where you are at. Now let's assume for 1 minute that you are at 1 million. Now whether your target is 3 months, 1 year, or 5 years, the principles of setting the target is the same. All you do is you go and say, okay, I want for next year this much profit. Or in 5 years' time, I want to double my profit to 500,000. To double my profit, do I have to double my sales? Maybe not. So you say, okay, if I make sales of about 2 million in 5 years, well, I'll more than double my profit. 2 million, not 200,000. I'll more than double my profit. But realistically, my expenses will not double, but maybe it goes up to 600,000. So that takes my profit to more than double. So I can actually quite happily let my expenses double too. That'll double my profit. And I know that, in fact, I can get these expenses down to maybe 550,000. I can keep them to that net profit. Fine. I should make quite a bit of cash, and that cash in the first year should be about 100,000 then. Now, in 1 year's time, over 5 years, $1 million over 5 years is 200,000 a year. Very simple arithmetic. So I should make 1.2 million in the first year. And you may say, oh, that's a bit difficult. I can see, 1.1 million, but 1.2, that's 20%. 1.1 is 10%. So let's look at that first. Now, I'm not saying be negative. Just you look at these figures, you look at them, and you say, okay, I will be quite happy if I keep my costs to 350 next year and take my profits up by about 60,000. And you may say, well, I'm actually willing to spend more money in my expenses, another 50,000 maybe, keep my profits more or less the same, and spend a lot of money on promoting for the next year. And that's my 1 year target. So that will take you to where you want to be. You think of the 5 years, you write it down, you put some targets, you say net profit, gross profit, sales. The real figure is the 1 year figure, because the slower we start, the longer it takes to get to the end. It's that simple. The quicker the curve is, well, the quicker you're going to reach your goal. Now, this type of thinking is saying, I'm going to invest money in the business, and that expenses may be marketing or promotion or product development or customer marketing expenses. So it makes sense. And this is the thinking behind the figures. You put the figures down. You don't put all the thoughts down yet. You just put the figures because logically you will remember why you've done it and how you've done things. And you may say, well, let's stretch this to 1150 because that may not be that easy, but it's a good stretch target. And I'll get 290. I'm still going to keep my costs, and I'm going to spend about 420,000, of which I'm going to say about 70,000. The extra spending is all going to be on promotion and getting me to the point where I'll get to 2 million in 5 years or even more. Now that you've done your sales and profit targets, and you can see how simple this is, you can go on talking about which customers you'll sell to and what products and services you'll sell to them. But first, set that target. What is my profit target? Then what is my gross profit target, and what is my sales target? Just one thing here that most people know. Those expenses there, all those expenses include what you pay yourself as a salary or a wage or whatever you want to call it. So if you pay yourself 100,000, you take it out of your profit. You are not looking at the realistic cost of your business and what comes out as net profit. How you do it accounting or tax-wise for the purpose of tax payments is another issue. What you should do here is ask yourself this question when you look at money for yourself. This goes to the shareholders, which could just be you. And this goes to the people doing the work, their wages. So you should pay yourself for doing the work, and you should pay yourself for owning the business. Two different things. Very simple, but if we lose track of that, we lose track of the fact that we will start setting profit targets that's way below what any business and industry should set. With that completes what I want you to look at and think about for sales and profit targets. At this point, look at me and think of this. Know what your net profit is 5 years, 1 year from now, and what is it now? What should your gross profit be? But most importantly, what is the sales targets for those time periods? 5 years, 1 year, now, to achieve your profit. So with that, you can take a break and you can come back straight after, and we will look at customers and products and services. Hi and welcome back, and now we're going to talk about the second major step, which is how will I get it, which is all going to focus on customers and services. But first, customers. And this is what you will find as a workbook. I'm going to ask you about your current situation and the targets you're going to set. Those targets usually a year from now. Now I'm going to use a spreadsheet to do this, so I can explain it to you and put figures in and discuss them. But you can sit with this workbook in front of you and do it as I talk, or at the end of the spreadsheet, go and do this. With that, let's head over to the spreadsheet and go through it. You can take a brief break if you wish and then come back. Hi, welcome back. And now I'm going to talk to you about customer targets. I'll get to the spreadsheet in a minute. But the question here is this: how many customers do you need? And this could be customer groups or individual customers depending on the type of business. Some businesses may have 10, 20 individual large customers. Some may have hundreds of smaller ones. Depends on your business in different industries. So it all depends on how you categorize customers. So that's why I've put A, B, C, D, E there if you look at the spreadsheet. And all you're going to say to me from how much money are you making now from each customer group? If you can't give the answer, make a guess. But most people know these answers. So if you don't know the answer, that in itself reveals an issue in your business, because we need to know where we make our money from. And then we need to know how can we grow that money from the same customers or get new customers. That's all this is. Am I going to sell more to the same customers, and am I going to add some new customers? And that's the thinking here. Do not worry about the how now. Well, yes, somewhat. There's no use saying I've got a customer that buys 20,000. Next year I'm going to sell them 20 million if they don't even turn over $1 million a year. So I'm not advocating being silly about this. With that said, let's look at this. So if you look at your customer groups, then all I will do there is put figures in there. So I'm going to just change this and say, okay, what figure was there? 475,000, and you put that figure there. Now you will notice in here, I'm only giving you a target a year from now, because customer growth doesn't take place in 5 years' time. It takes place now. It takes place in the next year. It's saying, given my sales target, and I've put your sales target there, 1.15 million. How many customers do I need in a year from now? That's going to be the real focus. But the first thing you do is you put down where you are now, and you may put down there 350,000. And these are big order size figures where you think things are coming from. I suggest go and check this out and see whether you're guessing correctly, because that will in itself reveal quite a bit. Now let's go. 150,000, 25,000, and now that all adds up to the million that I'm making this year. So whatever the figure is, and you may have a much longer list, it does not matter. And it doesn't matter if you've put figures down there from A to E, that it doesn't exactly add up to your target. If you're selling $1 million and you're coming to 980,000, you've covered all the customers. The point is to know where you're getting your figures from, not to audit it and have it all balanced. Okay, if you're making $1 million, don't put 500,000 down. That will be silly. But if you put more or a little bit less, don't sweat it. The real important thing is, where are you going to do it a year from now? Now, I've put percentages down there, which I don't normally use. Most people work on dollar values, which is a much better thing to target. So a year from now, how much can this customer grow? Now, I'm going to suggest this to you. Your target should be double what you really want to make. So if you're making $1 million, if your target is going to be 1.15 million, your target should ideally be double that. So you start saying, where will I make how much from who? And then you will put figures in like something like this. I think I can grow this customer to $1 million. I think I can grow this one to 500,000. This one will stay at 140. I can't get more out of them. This one can probably grow to 400. They're a new customer and they've only put their toe in the water. You see the thinking you may have when you do this. I'm just giving you a loud out thinking of how I would have a conversation with people. And then someone would say, oh, there's some new customers that's going to be on the horizon. That person we can make 300,000 from. And there's a figure of 2.3 million. And you say, well, that is not bad. It doesn't mean you're going to make sales of 2.3 million, but you now have a potential customer target where you could make it from. And the real question is, you go through those figures there, you think through them, and you say, how am I going to make this happen? That's why I make you set these targets. It's not about setting targets and saying, well, 475 to a million, 350 to 500. Well, that is a little bit silly. Yes, it is if you just put them down. But most people have a very good understanding of where they are with their customers, what's possible, where they can sell more. If you don't, then that again reveals a problem. Now, this comes up in conversations as we do it. Some people have no problems with these, so we move very quickly into much more detailed planning and other issues. And in some cases, people have no idea where they're going, and then this becomes a much longer exercise. So it all depends on where you are at with your business. With that said, you can get the idea of what it is, where you have to be a year from now. You double the target, and you sit there, and this could be a list of 20, it could be a list of 10 or 5, it could be industries, it could be actual customers, it could be a mix of that. Now, with that said, I've taken you through the main thinking around customers. So let me just have a short conversation with you about this. The whole point here in this whole business focused challenge is to say, how much profit do I want to make? And to make that profit, both net and gross profit, what sales is needed? Now, once we have a good idea of sales, we can start setting targets for a year from now, saying, I want to increase my sales by 20%. Then what you do as a mental exercise to challenge you to achieve that is you say, here is the sales figure, a million or 1.5, double that to 2 million or 3 million, and saying, how can I add up potential sales to customers? It adds up to double my sales. Because what it does, it stretches you to a higher thinking. If you only put enough customers down to 1 million, well, invariably some fall away. They don't make it. And if that's the only ones you focus on, your pot has just shrunk. If you've got a much bigger focus, yes, you focus on the existing customers, but you now will start thinking in the mindset in yourself. And if you talk to people around you in your business about this, the mindset becomes, how can this be done? So you're not setting this to make some pipe dream. You're saying, this is what could be done. This is where it's possible. Now, what will it take? Now, that is part of that is the next step I'm going to do. You can take a break now if you want to, and then come back as I talk to you about products and services and what you will sell to these customers. By the way, some people never get beyond this one. They don't get to products and services because the detail and the amount of discussion that goes around the selling and gaining more market share becomes huge. So product innovation doesn't come into it. Sometimes people have this well in hand. Often we end here in my workshops, and then we go through the rest in a follow-up. With that said, take a break and come back and look at what products and services you need to sell to make your targets. Right, next, we're going to focus on products and services. This is going to be shorter because you now get the idea of our approach, and it's very similar to doing customs. And that's the document you'll find in your workbook. Look at your current situation, set targets. Now, when you've listened to my customer and sales presentation, you'd have seen that I've said double the target. Now, yeah, you're not going to double the target. The target will be the same as you put into your financial objectives in the first place, because you're not going to make twice the products you really need. That's not sensible. If you get twice the amount of customers, well, that will be good. But if you make twice the products, yeah. Now, with that said, I'm going to use a spreadsheet, and you can take a quick break and then come back, get your workbook ready, or you can just keep on listening. Welcome back. And I'm going to talk to you now about product targets. Now, this is going to be probably shorter because the method is the same as in customers. And once you get the idea, you can go and you can run with it and do it yourself. Now, again, you will list products. In this case, not customers, but what products you're selling. And that may be a much longer list. And then you put down a figure there. How much am I selling of product 1? How much am I selling of product 2, product 3, and so on. Now, I've put more down there because in the future, you may have new products coming online. And then you start saying, okay, a year from now, how much am I selling? By the way, I've put down the percentages there, and I've put down the percentages there. The point of putting those percentages down in case you need them. So it depends on how you think about the business, how you approach things, but mostly dollar values is what one should be thinking of first. So I can increase this business by that much. I can increase this one by that much, that product, sell more. This product is becoming old fashioned or it's now out of market. People no longer buy it. There's a decreasing need, but there's a new product that's really going to be in demand, and this one too. So this is really about saying what's going to be selling in future, what's going to increase, what's going to decrease. So you can come up with a figure that adds up to your target. Now, if you come up with a figure that's higher than the target, that's fine. That's not the point. The point is to come up with a figure that reaches the target or more or less exceeds it, so you know which products you have online and what can sell. Now you could do a matrix and say what product sells to each customer, but it becomes hugely complex. And since you're looking at the future, we're already making what one could call educated guesses. And now to make you do an educated guess to say how much you will sell to each customer, that's possible. And I would go into that detail when you do detailed planning month to month on what customers to target. But that comes down to when you do sales calls and when you do customer relations management. What I'm saying here is put down the big targets. So you can use this to guide your overall planning and your strategy from 1 week and 1 day and 1 month to the next. I've said I'm going to keep this one short and sweet, and that is it. Now, you can set different product targets here. Let's say you say, well, I can't sell more of this one. That's going to happen. That's how much I'm going to sell next year. At a stretch, this one actually is quite lucrative. If I went out to certain customers, maybe I could sell more of that. This one is really 50,000. I must be more realistic, and this is going to die. No one's going to buy this anymore. It's not needed anymore. This one actually, it's possible to sell 150,000 of that product in. This product now 300,000 is about right. The point is not to get accurate figures, but to start getting a feel for where will your growth in product sales come from? Where do you have to innovate? Do you have enough new products coming online? Do you have enough new services coming online? It's really saying, do I have the right product and service mix to sell to my current customers and to the new people that I will bring on as customers? With that said, I am going to head off to the next section in the workbook. Go and take a break for yourself and come back, or just sit and listen and continue. Hi, and now that you've gone through all these goal setting, you've looked at your sales and profit goals, the goals for the amount of customers you need and how you should build that customer base and what products and services you need to sell. This has been a thinking exercise rather than just goal setting. So as you set the goal, that's why I say put the number down. The minute you put the number down, you start thinking about how to make it and whether it's realistic and whether it's how difficult it will be, how easy it will be. It's not about getting the numbers perfect. It's about setting that targets and lifting our thinking and challenging us to move forward. Now, when I looked at your financial targets, it's very easy to set a target that looks very good, and then we get excited because on paper it looks fantastic. It doesn't have to look good on paper for it to work. But it can look good on paper and fail, because it's the thinking and the action around that thinking and that consistent persistence and doing the right thing from 1 month to the next and being held to account that's really going to make a difference to you. So to get the customers and sell the right products and services, we can all have things on paper, but we have to implement them. We have to put them into action, and that's what counts. By the way, I want to make you realize that I've given you some benefit of an outside perspective and a sounding board with this. If you want to get the full benefit, then head off to my website and just send me a request for doing a workshop. That is simple and easy to do. Now, with that said, I hope that you have a great life and a very successful business. And in part 2, which is going to follow this, you will be able to look at some of your planning and management and leadership issues that needs to be tackled to make all these goals happen. See you there.